we're in right now is designed to hear sound in the entire room. So normally there's just a microphone up by me. So the people on the call are going to hear you if you're in the back, even if they don't think you're going to hear you because it's sort of weird acoustics here. So we'll try to go through this. Dr. Walters is otherwise engaged right now, so he's asked me to run the meeting in his absence. We're going to start with the this is Dr. Clemency. We're going to start with the CMAC SEMSCO report. Dr. Bart, Dr. Walters, and Dr. Tackett are not here right now. There's been no meeting since the last one, I don't believe.
Right.
Is there anybody who's got anything special about the CMAC or SEMSCO they think needs to be mentioned?
My report is attached.
Hey, it's Kevin McGee.
Okay, Dr. McGee. REMAC Chairman report, Dr. Walters is not present. He's got some stuff under new business that I'll cover. Trauma Advisory Committee meeting, Beth Moses.
No report.
Nurse Advisory Committee, Bruce Trepaz.
There was no report.
No report. Program Agency report, Lake Plains.
Just get a few trainings that occurred from the last meeting. Some medical director changes, other information. There's 2 cons currently going on in the Big Lakes region. Mercy EMS con for Niagara County. Public hearing was November 1st, which is a large turnout. There's a con committee meeting tonight at 6 p.m. and then the con vote will be 7 p.m. tonight. And then Central Orleans, or COVA, is looking for Orleans County. They're just getting further documents from COVA at this time. And then last night, Lee Burns had a state of EMS meeting. It was a decent turnout. Just did some of the state of the health of the EMS from last night. And that's pretty much about it.
Great. And then also for the Big Lakes region, we have a letter from Wade making Dr. Connolly the representative for UMMC, and she's on the phone now. Great. All right. Any questions for Lake Plains? STEMS.
We have carbon monoxide poisoning coming up. That's going to be through Orleans General Center of Wounding. We are conducting a DX leadership. We're having 2 speakers coming from Albany and develop our EMS captains. And then we also had a stroke emergency training in September, which went very well. It's with a neurologist from Orleans General.
Any questions for STEMS? UBMD?
So we just concluded our partnership on the fall resuscitation symposium with AMR Heart Rescue. We were really excited about it. It was a great day. It was 2 Saturdays ago at the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. We had 170 people registered. Not quite that many showed up, but the feedback was exceptionally positive with that. And so we look forward to future partnerships, not only with AMR, but other organizations that are interested in education outreach also. We continue to do rollouts for the EMS portal. We're still trying to stay on track for getting all of the services and providers in the Wyoming area region on this web-based portal. Our goal, and we have to be very aggressive with this, is March 31st of 2017. Our reason for that is because if we don't, credentialing in June is going to be a nightmare. So we're trying to avoid that. The system is working well, it's stable. It's not exactly glamorous at this point, but the basic functionality is there. And we're going to continue to make improvements to it down the road, but we really need all providers and services to be up on that really ASAP, and you're going to see more trainings. We've continued to do trainings, mainly one-on-one at each individual service, but we're going to have to start doing group trainings just so that we can meet that March target date. The New York State Bureau of EMS has been updating the BLS first response agencies. The services that were asked to respond to the update, at this point there are, I believe, 6 or 7 that haven't responded to the request. A couple of them are in process, but and I will read off the names just so that we can be aware of who these services are, and they need to respond to this. Buffalo Fire Department, East Aurora Fire, Highview Fire Company, Ucrest Fire Company, Kenmore Fire Department, North Boston Fire Company, and Boston Fire Company. If these services don't respond, the Bureau is intending to deactivate their EMS code as of December 31st, which means that they will not be eligible for EMT course funding. And if they are enrolled in the CME-based program, that's going to knock them out of that program because you have to have a code in order to participate in that. So we have had discussion with a couple of these. We feel reasonably confident that there's progress. But as of yesterday afternoon for the central office, these are still the so-called delinquents. Check and inject. We have, there's been 45 uses in New York State, and that information is as of November 2nd. 3 of those uses were in Erie County. There have been none in Wyoming County. The breakdown of my report of the services, who are the number that are enrolled by their service type is included in that report. We have an EMS officer training course that's planned for Saturday, February 4th. We'll be getting the information out, the registration information out very shortly. This is a program that is typically very well attended. We generally have in excess of 100 people who attend this training each year. And it is not limited to EMS officers because, as we know, the training is typically only offered once a year, and officers change more often than that. So it's really intended for anybody who has an interest in being an EMS officer to attend it, and it's open to everyone. So details will be going out on our listserv very shortly for that. We did hold a WREMAC preceptor training program at AMR this past Monday, and we had 38 people from 18 different EMS services attend that training, and the feedback again was real positive with that. We do have a CLI course that is planned for Erie Community College South Campus on January 6th, 7th, and 14th. The course details haven't been formally announced yet, only because we haven't had the course formally approved by the Bureau yet. So as soon as that happens, we will push out the registration information. We are planning to have 2 CLI classes in the Wyoming-Erie region, as well as a CIC class, and 2 certified instructor updates for 2017. So you can expect a bunch of activity with that, and the instructors are already lined up on the tentative dates. There are other CME opportunities that are coming up throughout the region, which are included in my report, have gone out on our listserv. And other than that, I think that concludes my report.
Questions for you, BMD?
Yes, the 12 lead, the BLS 12 lead policy, was that approved? I just don't want to put it on the website.
Yes, it was
Okay,
approved
well,
last meeting. It's ready to launch. And Dr. Walters looked at it again and found one typo, I think. So it's
Okay,
all
I
set.
just wanted to.
Yeah, thanks for double checking. Any other questions for you, BMD? Let's skip the collaborative protocol, because that's probably the real work of the meeting today for a second. QI, Dr. Lundberg, or any of his proxies? No? Okay. We'll do new business, and then we'll do the collaborative protocol and old business stuff at the end. The first item under new business is Dr. Walters asked us to disseminate 2 policies related to the use of lights and sirens. One comes to us from the state, the other is the National Association of EMS Physicians policy statement. And he just, again, asks us to remind agencies that it's inappropriate for them to be using lights and sirens on all of their calls kind of indiscriminately. And there's lots of tools to help triage which calls are most appropriate for lights and sirens response. And then provider judgment, once we've loaded a patient back in the back of the ambulance, will help dictate which calls are appropriate to be using lights and sirens. Obviously, there are times where a expedient lights and sirens mode may be warranted, but it should not be on every call every single time. And that is what he asked us to remind you. He also asked people to make vice chair nominations. Yeah, I thought that was funny too. Okay. Under new business, are there any objections to doing all 3 through 10 in mass? Hearing none. 3 is medical director approvals for the individuals below. PAD notifications, level of care changes, naloxone notifications, check and eject notification, CPAP approval, EPCR approval, and I believe BLS 12 lead should say notification, or does it have to be approval? Not that it matters, but.
Don't know the answer to
I
that.
think the policy.
It's the same thing as, I mean,
Okay, either way.
PAD is notification only
Okay.
too, you know, so.
All right. Is there a motion to accept items 3 through 10 in mass?
Motion.
Thank you. Thanks, Henry. Second by Dr. Lynch. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Aye.
no opposition? Okay, great. Okay, collaborative protocol update. Okay, so there are, as you can see, there's sort of 4 pieces of this that need to be bid off. The educational rollout, the education for physicians, the medication formulary changes, and then required fluids and meds are sort of part of that also. At the last meeting, we were optimistic that everything would be in place for January 1st, and so that we would hopefully be able to be on the new protocols for March 1st. It seems less likely than it was 2 months ago that will be the case. We will hopefully give people a better idea in the next few weeks as the educational material and the app is sort of being finalized literally as we speak. In any case, the motion from the previous meeting still stands and still applicable, that it would be March 1st or 60 days, 2 months after everything is in place to begin. Just if I was a betting man, I'd bet that we are perhaps more looking like April right now, but I don't want to throw a definitive date out there just because I'd only be making it up at this point. When we have a better idea of what the tea leaves look like, we will certainly let you know. The next WREMAC meeting is not till January, but I think lots of stuff are going to happen in the next 2 months between now and then. And so I think the best way to push things out is to have a smaller group work on the educational material and the tests with the collaborative protocol partners. And I think the best way to do that is for us to make a motion to give that group parameters to work in, but then to sort of let them do their thing, as opposed to waiting for everything to come, rethinking about it in January, then sending the group out, then bringing it back to vote. So my recommendation after talking to Brian would be the following, and I'd like discussion after I sort of make this. That first, for BLS providers, there will be no mandatory training and there will be no testing. Okay? Obviously, there are some things that can be seen as guidance, or that provide guidance in the new protocols for BLS providers, but we have not in the past, nor do I think we should start now, testing or having mandatory services for BLS providers. As for the ALS providers, there are podcasts and educational tools coming to us from a number of different directions right now. Our colleagues in Rochester are creating some. Obviously, a weakness of what they're creating for us is that they don't use the EMT or CC level, so their stuff would only really cover paramedic ALS care. There's also stuff coming out of the collaborative protocol group, and that's being based primarily out of Syracuse with people submitting from all different areas. And then finally, if we find there's gaps in both of those things, we can create some homegrown stuff. In any case, after doing whatever we determine to be the mandatory trainings, providers will then have to take a protocol exam. That would be AEMTs, CCs, and paramedics after a testing that they have taken whatever the mandatory training modules are that are selected by the group. Obviously, people that have EMT certification are free to do the training modules for their own information, or there may be some training modules that come from the collaborative protocol that our work group don't think need to be mandatory for everybody before they take the stuff. And just as we did last time, I think that an agency physician, medical director, live in service is another way to do that, like we've done in the past. So, so what I think we need to do is create a work group, and I'll clean this up all with a motion after a brief discussion. But I think we need a work group to work under understanding that parameters, pick the stuff as it comes, and then create whatever our final standard would be. I think that's better. I think having that in place now, so that as the stuff rolls out in the next couple weeks, they can pick it, and we don't lose lots of time. Does that sound like a reasonable approach to people? So then, okay. Oh, so then I'll need someone to make the motion, but I'll sort of summarize that very briefly one more time for the record then. So, making a motion to create a subcommittee to select what educational tools, whether that be podcasts or written materials, will be available and optional, or available and mandatory for each level of care, as well as to work to create the protocol test for the 3 advanced life support levels of care. And then that group will have the authority to set that in motion, and then it'll be disseminated.
The tests are being developed as a part of the collaborative.
Right.
That wouldn't default to the region.
We're submitting stuff to them, and I think the region still needs to approve it. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the test itself is covered in the protocol agreement that we've signed.
Yeah, it is.
I
The
think
because,
so.
yeah,
The
because
written test is?
yes.
I think so.
Okay, well then we don't have, then we got no choice. Okay. Well, good, so then not the test, just the educational material.
So there's the podcast, the apps, the podcast, the test, and the podcast. I think there's 2 different sections to that. One's skills based, the other one is kind of operational. The piece that is definitely the gap is the difference, basically the errata sheet. What's different from the
Right.
old protocols to the
Right.
new ones, and then we also need to think about new students who are newly certified people who have never used the protocols before, that they're going to kind of fold into this too. But somebody who's been in the system for a while doesn't need the full protocol rollout because the format is the same as what we've been used to. It's just covering the differences.
Right. And that's why I think it's hard to talk about exactly how we'll operationalize it until we actually see the tools.
Right.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
the problem.
and so that's why I'm sort of trying to present a fairly general vision of what's going on, because we may find the tools totally answer the question and it's easy, or we may find that
I'm told they don't. I'm just gonna be honest.
Does that sound like a reasonable, yet like everything else in life, imperfect solution to the problem at hand? All right. Does anyone have any questions or suggestions about how to do it differently or how to operationalize it differently? Then hopefully that group would be able to right away have everything done, and hopefully the limiting factor then might be the app rollout, not the education. But obviously we need to have protocols as much as we need to have education. All right. So because I'm the chairman, I can't make that motion. So would someone like to make what we just discussed a motion? Thanks, Dr. Lynch. Sure. Second? Thanks, Dr. Borton.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good. There was also a discussion about creating educational materials for physicians. Brian and I spoke about this afternoon. I think probably the best approach for this is almost, I'm going to use the word newsletter for lack of a better term, that we can create and circulate to the hospitals to make people aware of some of the changes coming down the pipe. I think that's probably the best way to kind of get that out there, and then that could also be shared within the hospital with, nursing staff and other providers who maybe expect a patient to come in a certain way and now are coming in a different way to the hospital. So we will also ask that group to work on that also. That doesn't need a motion because it's just educational stuff being pushed out. And then finally, the last thing we need to do is finalize a medication formulary and to review the fluids and meds. Hopefully that will be coming out of a draft of that, or a suggestion of that will be coming out of the protocol group also.
No, because the formularies are different in each of the regions, so that's probably something we should do.
So that will be the work for the January meeting, to have that in place and finalized for the January meeting, voted on there. Any other questions about the protocol rollout issues, questions, concerns? Yes.
Looking at this,
Sorry, which one are you looking at,
just
Jason?
looking at
Sorry.
the airway management.
You're looking at this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the collaborative. So
Yep.
only paramedics are going to be able to participate then? Is that, or is that something we would revise for our,
I'm trying to see which.
oh, just pediatric. Oh, it's pediatric, okay.
Yeah. I believe paramedics it's limited paramedic support in 2 places, pediatrics and in the MFI protocol.
Okay, all right.
But not otherwise. Any other questions?
I was just wondering.
Yes, Beth.
Throughout the summary area, there's reference to AEMT-I and just AEMT. Why is there a delineation in two
I
different
just think it's
typo?
old habits
Old
die
habits,
hard.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And just to be clear, this is an awesome sheet, but in its current form, this is not approved. This will probably be some part of or used as part of the education stuff. I changed statewide to collaborative before I sent it out too. But yeah, so that's a.
Yeah, this was just an effort to evaluate the differences of the 2 protocols. And like I say, when we talk about the AEMT versus the intermediate level, sometimes that vernacular goes back and forth and it's unintended.
And I see this as a great reminder, like someone who's like done the training and then wants to look at something at 3 in the morning to remind themselves of how things have changed, rather than doing everything over again. This is a great resource. Thanks for spending the time doing this, Todd. This is awesome.
The issue that stands out to me after doing this exercise
Yep.
is the muted capabilities of the new AEMT. And I don't think it should hold us up on implementation, but it's something as a body that we really need to think about if we expect the AEMT level to proliferate. So it's something that we just have to be aware of. Okay?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think we as a region, so we were kind of one of the main people doing AEMTs early on, right? We had so many eyes that then crossed over. I think we got more progressive than, if that's the right term to use, or had more procedures and more stuff than the national standards for that equivalent level. And I think this is sort of pulling us back to what that standard was, right or wrong or indifferent. Any other collaborative protocol issues? Okay. Is there any other new business not before us? Karen has reminded me that we have not approved the minutes from the last meeting because I'm a terrible chairman and I should never be allowed to be chairman ever again.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
All right. Okay. Any opposed?
Voice from above.
All right. I would like the minutes to reflect that Dr. Walters is not here, and that I'm about to finish this meeting in under a half hour in his absence. If no one has any other new business for the council.
You guys all got so lucky.
If you feel like you got something robbed, I can talk about cardiac arrest management for another half hour without any problem. All right. Yeah. All right. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Critical cares.
Motion.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right. We're done. Thanks, everybody.